This episode is brought to you by Hyundai. Think you know what an electric vehicle should be? Think again. From the charge time and range in the Ioniq 5 and 6 to the 601 horsepower Ioniq 5N, Hyundai is redefining what EVs should be. Learn more about Hyundai EVs at HyundaiUSA.com. EPA estimated 303-mile driving range for 2024 Ioniq 5 SE SEL limited rear-wheel drive and 361-mile driving range for 2024 Ioniq 6 SE long-range rear-wheel drive with fully charged battery. Actual range may vary.
Here at the Almond Joy Factory, where tropical vibes abound, we use soft, fresh-tasting coconut.
The crunchiest almonds and delicious chocolate candy.
Ah, but do you know what our most important ingredient is? Sometimes you feel like a nut.
Sometimes you don't.
Almond Joy's got nuts and something even way better than that. Yes, Almond Joy is made with almonds and joy.
This episode is brought to you by Indeed. When your computer breaks, you don't wait for it to magically start working again. You fix the problem. So why wait to hire the people your company desperately needs? Use Indeed's sponsored jobs to hire top talent fast. And even better, you only pay for results. There's no need to wait. Speed up your hiring with a $75 sponsored job credit at Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply.
You're listening to the Animation Addicts podcast with the Rotoscopers, episode 315, The Wild Robot, Watching the Master at Work.
Welcome to the Animation Addicts podcast with the Rotoscopers, the number one place to get your animation fix with animation addicts just like you. Each episode, we dive into the wonderful world of animation featuring Disney, DreamWorks, Pixar, and everything in between. From hilarious discussions and movie reviews to interviews with industry insiders, this show's mission is to brighten your day through our love of animation. So hop on your nerdy couch, grab some snacks, and get ready to hang out with your animation besties because it's time to dive into today's episode. Hey there, animation addicts. I'm Morgan Stradling.
And I'm Chelsea Robson.
And we're here for another episode of the Animation Addicts podcast with a new release, The Wild Robot. We're going to be talking all things The Wild Robot. We both saw the movie, and I was excited to podcast about it. So we're here talking our thoughts on DreamWorks' latest release.
I was not ready for the emotions of this movie. Let's just start there.
But before we do, we just want to remind you about easy ways to support the show. We have a variety of different ways. You can start your Amazon shopping at rotoscopers.com/Amazon. Anything you purchase, we get a small kickback, which really does help keep the hosting up and just the show running. We really appreciate it. You also, if you're into Audible and you like audiobooks, you can go to rotoscopers.com/Audible and you can sign up for your free trial there and you'll get a free book, which is awesome. And we've mentioned before, they're still doing this deal on the Amazon Prime for young adults, formerly known as Amazon Student. And whether you are a student or you are ages 18 to 24, you can get a discount by going to rotoscopers.com/PrimeYA, and you can get 50% off your Prime membership, which is a big deal. It ends up only being $69 a year, and you get all of the benefits of Prime. You get all the shows, you get the 2-day shipping, you get reading, fashion deals, all the things. So definitely you can support the show by signing up for your Prime membership there and using our code rotoscopers.com/PrimeYA. And of course, the best free way to support the show is just tell your friends, share the show, and leave us a 5-star review on any of your podcatchers. So with that, off to The Wild Robot.
Imagine what's possible when learning doesn't get in the way of life. At Capella University, our game-changing FlexPath learning format lets you set your own deadlines so you can learn at a time and pace that works for you. It's an education you can tailor to your schedule. That means you don't have to put your life on hold to pursue your professional goals. Instead, enjoy learning your way and earn your degree without missing a beat. A different future is closer than you think with Capella University. Learn more at capella.edu.
I can say to my new Samsung Galaxy S25 Ultra, hey, find a keto-friendly restaurant nearby and text it to Beth and Steve. And it does without me lifting a finger, so I can get in more squats anywhere I can. 1, 2, 3.
Will that be cash or credit?
Credit. 4.
Galaxy S25 Ultra, the AI companion that does the heavy lifting so you can do you. Get yours at Samsung.com. Compatible with select apps. Requires Google Gemini account. Results may vary based on input. Check responses for accuracy.
This episode is brought to you by Walmart. New beauty is in bloom at Walmart, and it's all about springtime radiance. From Drybar, Tula Skincare, and hundreds more available online, Walmart has the premium brands you want and this season's on-trend products for flawless, glossy hair and hydrated skin. Big name beauty brands? Check. The things you love? Check. Find trending spring beauty and all you need to look and feel gorgeous at Walmart, on app and online.
All right, so The Wild Robot. Before we get started, I have lots of thoughts. Let's set the stage. Production studio, DreamWorks Animation. Distributor, Universal Pictures. The director was Chris Sanders, and it's just him. You know, it's not one of these, we have multiple guys that are involved. Guys or girls, right? Sometimes we have a fleet of directors, it seems. But this is just Chris Sanders. He also is the screenwriter. So we don't even have a story team per se. Obviously, there's story aspects, but as far as the signature screenwriter, it was just Chris Sanders. Release date, September 27th, 2024. The budget, $70 million. And as of recording, this has done, in its first week, $61.8 million.
It was $78 million. So
what did I say?
70. But, I mean, it's still very, very low compared to what we've been seeing from Disney. And what's interesting about Chris Sanders is, like, he has been on story since The Beauty and the Beast. He was a Disney guy, and he was at Disney until after he wrote Lilo and Stitch. So he was on the story team since Beauty and the Beast. He wrote Mulan. He wrote and directed Lilo and Stitch. And then he went to DreamWorks and he wrote and directed the first How to Train Your Dragon and The Croods. He was then the executive producer on the rest of the How to Train Your Dragon series. And then he came to this, directing Wild Robot. He did direct one other live action movie.
This was The Call of the Wild. This was the Harrison Ford adventure movie with the dog, but the dog was all CGI, and that really was a turnoff for me. It's based on Jack London's 1903 novel, and that was his live action directorial debut, and he did have a co-director there. But yeah, that was, I remember hearing all the buzz about that one, and I don't think it did too well. It did 111.1, wow, all ones, $111.1 million with a budget between 125 to 150. So not necessarily a huge success for him, but then he came right back to DreamWorks.
Yeah.
Which that may have been, that may have been like a subsidiary. No, it was 20th Century Fox. So, he's not afraid. He kind of reminds me of Andrew Stanton in a little bit with that. Like, we're going to veer off and we're going to try something a little different, even though we are classically trained in animation.
Exactly. And he has, the fact that he did the first How to Train Your Dragon, as well as, just so many of these great movies and Call of the Wild, these were based off of books. And The Wild Robot was also based off of a book. So I think he does a really good job at bringing something to life.
Yes, what I love about Chris Sanders is that he is tried and true at this point. He has been involved in so many hits, and he's let's talk just the things he's directed: Lilo and Stitch, How to Train Your Dragon, The Croods, Call of the Wild, and The Wild Robot. Now, he didn't necessarily go on to direct the sequels for a lot of these. A lot of these actually did have sequels, but he's the one who's able to take some material and properly adapt it to screen, where it's really interesting. Like the How to Train Your Dragon book is very different. I've read it with my son. It's not that engaging personally, but the movie is just so amazing. It's so good. And The Wild Robot, we read The Wild Robot leading up to this. My kids were very excited, and I said, no, you know the rule. We got to read the book. And so we read the book, and the book is really fantastic. What's interesting about this book, there's 80 chapters in it.
Wow.
And each chapter is just like a page, or maybe 2 pages. Maybe they're going to get adventurous. Okay. You might get like a 3 to 5 page chapter. But within it, the author...
That's really great for his parent.
His name is... Yeah, Peter Brown is the author, but he's also an illustrator. And there's tons of illustrations. It's just... There's maybe half of the page is taken with an illustration, or maybe 2 full pages, and they're these black and white, very stylized, pictures that are in the book, or maybe a full page, or maybe just a little corner thing. And so, I mean, the majority of the book, not the majority of the book, but, you know, it's a pretty beefy looking book, but when you're flipping through it, it's not intimidating at all because there's so many pictures and illustrations throughout, in addition to the very short chapters. It made my 6-year-old, she was able to read it, you know, and not be overwhelmed because, you know, she can just read a chapter and feel, hey, I checked that off. That was great. So I think we're going to talk about this, and just because Disney is so top of mind right now and all those changes that are happening, but DreamWorks has really gone, there's two things here. There's the established, you know, directors and story people and people who've just been in the game, they've been in the trenches, they've put in their 10,000 hours. So as we're going about this discussion, I noticed two big themes that definitely is the separating of the path, where one goes one way and one takes another route. And these are relating to personnel. Whether you are very accomplished, you're a seasoned director, you've just been in the industry, you know, put in your 10,000 hours, so to speak, versus newbies, and budgets. These big $175 to $200 million budgets versus let's keep it more contained, let's have a leaner production, which is what DreamWorks is doing. So, and this is a huge success for both of those reasons. So do we want to talk about the movie or do we want to talk about those?
Well, while we're here, let's just talk about this and then move on to the movie.
Okay. So, all right. And I think a huge success with this is DreamWorks. They know Chris Sanders. Chris Sanders has been involved in a lot of studios, a lot of great films, and they can tap into him and say, hey, we have this story, we want you to take it, instead of, hey, you just got out of screenwriting school. Do you want to direct this animated movie even though you don't know anything about animation? And that's being very facetious, but kind of not. And so, you know, they put this in good hands. And on the top of that, as I was looking at the credits and obviously at the budget, it mirrors it. DreamWorks runs a lean production. They don't have a million directors. They don't have a million screenwriters. They don't even have a lot of people. Like I was even looking at like studio leadership, you know, the executive team and the marketing department. They don't have just swaths of people. And it's very small. There's like maybe one or two. And they were able to get so much more with less. And I think one of the big indicators about this was I noticed the production babies. This was something that I believe Pixar sort of started. Anyone who had a child during production, they'll put the baby's name in there. And if you're looking at Disney Pixar recently, I mean, it goes on forever. It's huge. And I noticed that there were only 12 production babies in The Wild Robot, which I thought was pretty interesting. So yeah. And again, if that's just a representation of how lean this production was, just, you know, percentage wise, you get a feel of, wow, they were really able to stretch this out and make it work and not have a lot of drama yet. So we heard, right? It seemed the only drama that I will say about this is supposedly this is the last DreamWorks Animation film to be done in-house. And there's a major effort to offshore everything. And that's really sad to me to see this stereotype, not to see this flagship American animation studio have to go that way. But why do they have to go that way? They're not Disney with $200 million budgets. 75 is pretty fair, you know? So, but I will say, I have heard rumors that the success of The Wild Robot has made them sort of rethink their strategy, and they're going to be supposedly reeling in some of that and totally changing their direction back to in-house. And yeah, so already, I'm just a huge fan of this movie. Just from those two things alone. And I think that's what set this up for success. They had seasoned veteran director who knew what he was doing, had done this before lots of times, and they kept the budget and they kept the production lean.
Yeah, and another possibility as far as why there are less production babies is because it might be that the animators on here are just older and they're not in the I'm just starting a family phase. And so that could also lean into just the people that are on it are just more seasoned and have been around longer. So, you know, there's lots of possibilities as to why that is, but if that is one of the reasons, then it just emphasizes your case even more.
All right, so let's talk about this movie. This is such a fun movie. Immediately we're thrown in with the wild robot who we call Roz. Technically, she's Rosum Unit 7134. But for short, I'll call you Roz. So we call her Roz, and she's part of in the movie, she's on a cargo ship. I think in the or it's not in the movie, but in the book, she's a cargo ship, dumps 5 different robots, and all of them get destroyed by the waves, and she's the only one that remains. Here, we just see the box that she's in, the container. Mm-hmm. And, she's waking up and she's just a robot, so she has to obtain the directive and start helping. But she has to save herself first. And I really loved the way that this opened up. And just it was this bleak, gray world. There's not a lot of, obviously there's not dialogue. There's just earth and nature happening around her. And she has to adapt to that and figures out how to climb up the wall and then ultimately ends up in this beautiful forest island.
Yes. And through this whole thing, it's just such a, you mentioned bleak, but it's just like, you are really thrown into this and trying to figure out, one, where is she coming from? What is going on? And then also, where is she at all? Like, is this, what's the story? And they do a really good job of showing, not telling, what the story is. Like, she does, she does tell her story as far as, like, what is her directive? What is her stuff? Like, what is her purpose? And you understand that as an audience viewer, but you're also not understanding what exactly happened. And so you are left with, just like with her and in her, like, what is going on at the moment. And you have all of these animals that come out, and I love how they just showed you how she's like, okay, I will learn how to speak all of your languages, and just like stays there for a month, maybe, I don't know, however long it took to be able to
you see the passing
understand.
of time, and you see all of the foliage growing on her, and you realize, okay, she sat here until the job was done. And I really liked the way that they showed the different translation pieces clicking in as the animals were having different conversations, and it was all just foreign language. And then a bit here, a bit here, a bit here. And it obviously is into English, and she's able to piece it all together until ultimately she's able to understand all of the language, which in the book, all animal language is the same thing. It's just sort of like different dialects.
Okay.
And so if you understand one, you kind of understand them all. And yeah, I loved that, because we show, okay, she's adaptable. She's going to make this work. She's not just going to be stuck here and die. And once that gets unlocked, then she's really able to have a good time, I guess, and make friends and figure things out. Yeah.
And she's going around looking for a master, basically. Please tell me what to do. Please tell me what to do. And I think that's one of the themes. There's so many themes in this movie, and I think that we should kind of just cross off each one of them as we see them. One of them is deciding your own destiny. And so she goes from being this character that needs directive, needs somebody to tell her what to do, and over the course of the film, switches to, I'm going to change my own course and decide my own course. And I liked that aspect of it. There were a lot of different things that I felt like that was a good theme. I like that.
Yeah, one of the ones that really stood out at the beginning was this theme of Darwinism and the survival of the fittest.
Yeah.
Meaning you're in the animal world and death just happens. Yeah. And the way that they present it, it's pretty sterile. It's just, you have this really funny moment where the mom possum has 7 baby possums, and in the middle of a conversation that she's having with Roz, one supposedly dies. There's no mourning that happens. She continues on the conversation, just like, oh, a kid died, great, okay, move. I need to have this conversation with you. And at the end, he realizes that he's actually alive and all things are good, but it's the harsh reality of the jungle, if you will. This isn't a jungle, but the forest.
Yeah.
And survival of the fittest. There was one person, I think it was the fox, that says you need to learn how it works on the island. You need to survive. Kindness is not a survival skill. And we realize that she is going to continue on the path of kindness, and how kindness ends up being a survival skill that the animals had not taken into account before.
Yeah. I also liked the whole changing your programming. So from the beginning, she's really dependent on that. And all of the animals to themselves, based on going back to your point, is of kindness is not a survival skill. Like, she has this as part of her, but then also she must change her own programming as it goes in order to solve her directive, which is making sure that, okay, since I killed this duckling's Gosling's family. Now I must be its mother. And thanks to the possum gives her a directive, and she's like, okay, now this is what I have to do. But in order to do that, she does have to change her programming, and she has to rewrite it herself. And that goes into the changing your destiny thing. But like with the goal of, I need to put all of my emphasis on someone else. And is that kindness? I believe that is a mixture of kindness, but also just like selflessness. And so she's the changing her programming, as she has changed her programming throughout the film, so do the animals themselves. Like they are like, oh, okay, now I have to, I can take a page out of her book.
Yeah, and it's interesting because she's this robot. I mean, she's not supposed to have feelings or emotions, and she does, though, which the voice actress did an incredible job. Lupita Nyong'o, who you have this robot and you're supposed to make everything super monotone, but at the same time, that's boring. How do we convey emotion and feeling? And by changing her programming, she gives herself a purpose. Where when we see later with the different robots, when we're introduced to them, I mean, they're really just achieving the directive, and there's nothing to them. There's no personality, whereas she is so different. She's outgrown that, which I love.
Yeah. And then there's the theme of motherhood. Mm-hmm. Each day, as she's trying to figure things out, like she's like, I don't have a program for this. And then the possum's like, I know, none of us do. We all just make it up as we go along. And like that little conversation is it was so cute, how that went back and forth. And then even later on, as she is trying to talk to the other robot that she kind of puts back together, she's trying to get some kind of help from this other robot. And the other robot's like, you change your programming. What is going on? She's like, well, yeah, I've got a kid. And, like the way she said it, it went from very robotic to very real and human. Yeah, because I got a kid. Mm-hmm. Like it's a whole feeling that she has changed herself. But then also there's the other side of when you have Bright Bill, and he goes through and he has been raised to be a robot, raised to have this whole side of him that's kind of that's very different from the rest of his kind. And he's also been he gets to that point of finding out what really happened, and then you lied to me, but also then later on just making the decision and seeing outside of yourself and having the gratitude for the person that cared for you. In this case, it wasn't technically his mother, but in adoption, but it also could just be like somebody who's done really good things for you, and you never really showed that gratitude.
Yeah, they did such a great job. And Bright Bill was a great character. So with the voice cast, I really loved the voice cast on this one. Mm-hmm. I felt that they all were perfectly suited to their roles. No one was distracting. There was no Robin Williams or, just these Aquafina that just really took away. Pedro Pascal as Fink, I had no idea. I mean, I'm not super familiar with his voice, but afterwards I was like, oh, okay, yeah. And then we have Kit Connor as Bright Bill, Catherine O'Hara as Pinktail, the possum mom, Mark Hamill as Thorn the bear, which was funny. And one that I really, really loved was Ving Rhames, who did Thunderbolt, the peregrine falcon, which was so unexpected because falcons are very petite and agile and swift. And so you would think maybe a little bit more of a
higher voice,
not so manly of a like deep, strong of a voice, but they really are the top predators. The falcons are, and so for that, it's like this big, buff, strong voice, because this is who I am, even though I'm in a small little package. Yeah. I thought it was so good. It was just so unexpected, but then perfect at the same time. And, and he's really this father figure in that moment where, if you don't have a father, or, the father figures in your life are still equally as important, because they're able to give you those masculine elements and things that the mothers, despite their best efforts, just simply cannot do. And with him, it's like, because I'm a bird, I'm going to teach you how to fly. Yeah. And then later we have the long neck, which is Bill Nighy, who is the grandpa.
He was sweet. Oh,
goose. I know. He took him under his wing and really didn't push him aside like the other geese had, and they really made fun of him because of his upbringing, because he was so different. He was more robot than goose, just in his mannerisms and how he behaved. And Bill, saw what he was able to do and overcome and said, yeah, you can be part of us. But by, what was it? By fall or something was the deadline. So they had this like ticking time bomb. Yeah. But I did think his death was underserved in a way. It didn't have the punch that I really was expecting it. Like, I was really expecting to cry over this, but I think because they did it sort of like off scene, like we kind of knew what had happened, and then it wasn't revealed to Bright Bill until later. But it was so much later that like I, as an audience member, already sort of accepted, oh, he died and he sacrificed himself for the flock. And when it was revealed to us, I was like, yeah, that's sad. I don't know. That was the one moment where I was like, it should have been there. I don't know. There should have been something a little different so it could like pack more of a punch. Yeah. But the film is fantastic. I mean, that's like one of the most nitpicky things I'm going to have about this movie. You didn't die enough. I don't know. I didn't cry enough. Oh gosh, I definitely cried through this whole thing. There were parts of it that I was laughing out loud. It was just sincerely funny. And then there's other parts that it really gets to you, and they do a fantastic job of meddling with your emotions. So there you go. Yeah. The one scene that was really impactful. So, okay, we talked about the art style, and I'm going to lead up to crying, but I loved the art style. I just thought it was phenomenal. It felt painterly, almost as if the backgrounds were 2D. I just was mesmerized by what I was looking at. And it built the animation style and just the art style really built on what the bad guys in Puss in Boots: The Last Wish did. And now it's starting to feel a little bit trademark DreamWorks. However, it still feels fresh. The backgrounds had like these brush strokes that you could tell just a lot of effort went to making that feel seamless. And I loved it. Apparently there were certain painters that they were trying to emulate. And it really feels that they accomplished what Wish was trying to do. Wish was trying to accomplish this 2D watercolor painting style and failed terribly because the characters did not blend well. It was very distracting. The frame per second rate or whatever that they chose to do, just, animating on, I don't remember, it was ones or twos, whatever they ended up doing, it just was bad. But this, everything was seamless and it worked, and the characters blended in with the background, but the background was distinct and felt flat to me at times in a really good way. I don't know how they did it, but again, Chris Sanders is a master. This is why you hire someone who's been in the business a long time and really knows, okay, if you're going to do something that's very revolutionary and, not just like, hey, this is the same style we've used for all 20 of our other movies, it's in the bag, easy. If you're going to push the envelope artistically, you have to have someone who has a thorough understanding of the rules and when to break them and where to push it. And I think Chris Sanders really has that. And so I loved, and so with this, we see the bleak, gray, almost robotic, metallic feel of the island when she first arrives. But as she interacts with nature and the animals, and then starts having more feelings, quote unquote, it gets, the world opens up to her. And I think the one scene that really stood out to me that was so beautiful was the flight training scene. I cried. There was the animation, the music, the song that they had. I'm not sure what it was, but it just worked so well. It did. It really had that feeling of in Klaus. Okay, so the song was Kiss the Sky, was the one that's singing as he's learning how to fly, and he's failing and succeeding, and he's training. And it had that feeling in Klaus when they're sledding. And it's just this song that you haven't heard anywhere before. It's unique to this film, as far as I can tell. And it's just the one song. So it really is this pinnacle emotional moment where they're introducing a song right here, and you feel all the feels and all the emotions and the colors of all the different geese learning to fly and taking off, and she has her arms out and she's doing it too, holding him up and giving him speed. Oh, builds the runway. Perfection. Yes. Like just how much she goes above and beyond in order to help this Gosling is just such a great reminder of all of the people who do so many things for us on a daily basis without us even realizing it. Yeah. So I did notice a little Easter egg. I can't remember what it was now, but I wrote it in my notes, Alpha 113, which that's A1113. You know, people typically associate this with Pixar being like a Pixar only Easter egg, but it's not. Any of the people who've gone to Cal Arts, this is one of the main rooms that they take their classes in, and it's just become anyone in the industry who went to Cal Arts, they'll throw this in their movies, and I love it. And so I saw that and said, I know what you did there.
I like it. Another one of the characters that I loved was this beaver that they had going in. And from the beginning, he was funny. Just this like, get out of my sight. You have
get off my lawn.
Yeah. The get off my lawn, but then also she takes his burrow or his den and then just uses that as like her guide of creating her den. And he's like, it's like, that's trademarked. It's so funny.
Yeah. So with the beaver, one thing that I loved with the beaver is that there's this, he's working on something in the background. He's just chewing on this tree, and it's the biggest tree in the whole forest. And people are like, what are you doing? And then it comes full circle at the end where they actually need that. And his tree saves the forest. It was just fantastic and perfect. Perfect payoff. Oh, speaking of this big scene at the end, so they topple the tree to divert the water to help with the forest fire. And talking about the art style, I loved the use of color in this movie.
Yeah.
Very unique uses of color. You would think a forest fire, you'd have the oranges and the reds and the yellows, but it was this bright fuchsia pink. And it just was so different and visually stunning and not weird. Like, what are they doing here? It felt right because of all the other color choices that have been used. The palette just, like, I am going to be buying this art book because this is kind of like the original Puss in Boots one. Remember where we were looking at that one and you're like, oh, this is so good, And this one for the color, like the color palette, I'm like, wow, I want to look more into this and see why they use certain things and how they got there. Again, it just, when you have a master who understands the basics and knows when to, like, hey, maybe, when to break the rules, like we should have a hot pink forest fire, versus, he knows when it's going to work and when it's not. And I really love that. There were so many times where, because she does this robot, she has this like stream of kind of like LED sort of lights throughout her that bright colors. We're introducing these colors that aren't a part of nature because she's not a part of nature. Mm-hmm. She is this foreign element that is man-made. So she comes in and she has these like neon colors that flash, and then it gets introduced into the other parts of the wilderness that we see. And I just thought that was really cool, kind of like how that tied that in, kind of representing that man is in the forest, not man, but, robot.
Right. Yeah, there's something that I really like is how they were able to, and this is something that obviously you can do with a live action film, but with animation, you just have so much more opportunity to have such creative control over every aspect visually. Because you're doing it visually, or every pixel is, you decide what that is going to be. And so with animation, I feel like like I said, obviously you can do this with live action. Take Twilight. They had the blue. They made the decision. But with animation, it's just so much more, like, just every little thing is a choice, and you can just look deeper into the whys of those choices with so much more anticipation. I really like it. With this pink fire, it actually started because we have the true antagonist of the film, and I would say it's the villain, although you didn't have this as a villain at any other point in time. I think the one critique that I would have is just how it seemed like there could be so many endings. And this little section of the movie ended, and now we're moving on to the next section. And now we're moving on to the next section. I don't know if I like that or not, because it did feel like, I felt like it could have ended at the flight instruction scene. And I would have been like, yay, he flew. And now they're off,
Yes,
But then it's like, okay, now what? And so they did that quite a few times. And granted, the movie was only like 100 minutes. So it's just barely over the 90-minute threshold. So obviously they needed more in order to like make this hit the timing. But it was interesting how it was very episodic in that way. But when you get to the point where she finally gets her tracking device going, and then she decides, nope, I'm going to stay here for the winter. And then after the winter goes away, they finally find her and come after her. And the whole part of like, your data is actually way more valuable than any of your memories. And I'm just like, oh, this is the world we're going to. It's so scary.
Yeah, they're not wrong.
They're not wrong.
Yeah, that was sad.
Yeah.
I didn't feel the episodic nature of it. I felt it was really kicked off with her having like being very black and white, binary 0-1, as far as like, we need to accomplish the directive. And then we need to, since there is no directive here, we need to go home. So from the very beginning, it's like, I need to get my homing beacon because there's nothing I can do here. There's no people to serve. No, I'm a helper robot. I can't help. And so I need to get home so I can then go and achieve my mission. And then that gets diverted because she needs to help the goose. And the fox is very sly and able to realize, oh, she does whatever you tell her. You give her a command.
As long as it's within her realm of figuring this thing out.
Right.
Like, okay.
And so that ultimately postpones her from her ultimate desire or programming to go back. And then she gets it fixed, and then she does ultimately go back. And it just felt like what the fox should have, and the fox maybe should have like given her another task. I don't know.
Right.
We've realized she's very helpful. She could help with wildfire cleanup. You can do a lot of things for us here. I would have liked, and the book is, obviously different, but and they're based on the book. But I would have maybe liked for her to like to crush it in the ground and break it, symbolically, or not symbolically, but literally break the homing beacon. And I will have purpose here, and I will have lots of objectives here that I can do. And then, she stays on the island. And there was a second and a third book, and it's kind of a series in that way. And so what I really loved is on Twitter, Peter Brown has been just so excited about this movie, and he's been tweeting and retweeting things and just sharing his excitement for this. Like, as an author, like, how amazing that your book would be to come to this level. And it just kind of it didn't feel fanboy-ish, but it just really felt like, wow, I can't believe this is happening. This is so cool. And I'm just so excited for everything that's happening here. And it just made me love him. And, he did mention that people have been asking Chris Sanders if he'd be interested in doing a sequel, and he has mentioned that yes, he would be interested in going into this world again, but at the same time, he's not really a sequel guy. So yeah, I don't know. We'll see where he ends up going and what they end up doing with this. They have, the great thing about this, they have 2 novels that are already set in stone. So it's not like, oh, we got to make something up, and same thing with How to Train Your Dragon. There's multiple books in that series. I haven't read the other ones to know how closely they align, but I'm pretty sure they do. I'm pretty sure they do follow aspects of the books in each one of them. So there's like, I don't know. I know my son's on 4 right now. So I'm not sure. I'm not going to quote like, oh, they consolidated this one and put it in that one. I have no idea. So it's all speculation. But at the end of the day, this movie was just great. And I loved it, surprisingly. Like, I know my kids were looking forward to it, and I read the book and I enjoyed it. But initially when I saw the marketing for this, I hadn't read the book, and I was like, this is interesting. It's different, but am I excited for it? Right. And then, so what happened was I was unable to see the press screening, and which I was so bummed, because this would be a great one. Some press screenings you can take guests to, especially the family ones. They'll let you bring your whole family. And so this would be an awesome one, but we were out of town. We were at a cabin all week. And so then the movie came, and we actually got 3 free passes for the kids to see the movie, because the Crayola experience, we're members, and the first 200 guests got passes. So I was like, we're going, guys. And they loved it anyway. So we got our 3. I'm like, excellent. Now that I have to pay for it, at least I only have to pay for my ticket, which is great. Yeah. Because the baby, I left him with grandma. But then I was like, oh, guys, when we're up at the cabin, there's a little town nearby. I'm like, we can go to the movie theater there. Well, that little movie theater was not connected to the Fandango website where I could put my code. So long story short, I kept seeing all these tweets all weekend long of people raving about the Wild Robot. It's amazing. It's beautiful. It's stunning. It's emotional. And I'm like, I need to see this movie now. So I was actually really excited, because the word of mouth just was amping me up, and I've heard that it's been amping a lot of other people up. So I really hope this movie continues to have a lot of legs. You know, there are fall breaks that are happening for different school districts around. So this is kind of a nice time to have to release your movie. So I'm hoping that it continues to do well and, you know, is very, very successful in the end. You know, maybe a 500 million plus, which based on the budget is very successful and really well done. And would I like to see another one? Yeah, because she left and I'm like, wait, I feel like there's more story here. You know, I guess I need to read the second book.
Well, and that was something that I really appreciated. Like, so one, you have like one other theme on here was like friendship. And so you have Fink, the fox, who he goes like, you can't leave because I don't have any friends. I was just like, that's so real.
Aw, yeah.
And so you really come to love this fox because it's just like, oh, you understand. And everybody's like, yeah, the jerk is over there. Like, he is a bit of a jerk, but and but I'm glad that they decided not to kill her in the end because yeah, I mean they already killed off the quote unquote father figure of Longneck, but also
yes.
But also,
I keep saying long neck, and I keep being transported to dinosaurs.
I know, right?
Like, wait.
So so I was glad that they didn't kill her, but also at the same time, it was like you can't just send her into the world, and she's got to go back. But I really liked that that Fink was, telling the stories to all the younger generations so that she would always be remembered. And I was like, that's sweet.
Yeah. In the book, after she leaves, she goes onto the plane and goes back to her, factory to be, and then on the trip, she's planning once she gets fixed, how she's going to return back to the island. And that's kind of how it ends. Similarly, we see her work in the fields and looking up. But I don't know if I felt like there was a strong, like, I will be going back at the end of the movie. Did you feel that?
I did not feel that, except for when...
I feel like it needed to be a little bit more strong, like just like a twinkle in her eye or something that...
Yeah.
Like, oh, okay, I know what you're doing there. Like, it was implied, but I wanted to be a little stronger. But. Well,
and she, the whole line of, they cut my power, and so what you... and they took my memories, but whatever I have that connects to you is somewhere else and is not connected to my power source or my data. And like the fact that she rewrote her code enough to even hide that is pretty amazing. But then you actually meet with Bright Bill. He finds her, and then she's like, my name is Rosum, but you can call me Roz. And then they have their little forehead moment. And I was like, that's sweet. But yeah, it didn't feel like, it felt like he's just now going to come visit her at this, indoor place.
Yeah.
So I don't know what's happening.
All right. So any last thoughts? What would you rate it?
That's hard. I feel like this is one that I will be thinking about for a while, and also it hit some good chords for me. So I'm going to say 4 stars, and it may go up later. I'll give it, I may change my rating to higher later. I may go lower, but I don't think so. And so I'm just going to go with 4 stars, 4 out of 5.
Okay. I'm going to give it 4.5 stars out of 5. So equivalent to a 9 out of 10. And I just, 10s, I'm notoriously stingy on my 10s. It's going to take a lot to get a 10 out of me. And, people I saw over the weekend, like, wow, this is DreamWorks' magnum opus. It's amazing. It's a masterpiece. And I didn't quite feel that. I did feel that this was a stellar film.
Yes.
And I was left loving it and wanting more. And so for that reason, I'm going to give it 4.5. And, maybe in 6 months' time, it'll bump down to a 4. But right now, I'm very happy, content at a 4.5. So there we have it. Now, if you want to hear me talk even more about this movie, I joined our pals on That Park Place, the YouTube channel. And I joined Jonas and Vashgai, and we discussed the wild robot in detail. We split it up into 2 videos, a non-spoiler and a spoiler. So I included links in the show notes if you want to check me out over there, talk even more with some really, really great guys talking the wild robots. So yeah, shout out to our friends at That Park Place.
Shout out.
We need to get a soundboard and just have basically you saying that shout out like a chorus of girls, you know. Good times. Let us know your thoughts about this movie. Did you like it? Did you not like it? Did you read the book? Go to rotoscopers.com/voicemails or give us a call at 406-646-6575. And of course, you can go to rotoscopers.com/315 to leave a comment there, giving us your review of DreamWorks' The Wild Robot. Anything else that you have, Chelsea?
Nope, I am good. I was glad to have seen this. It was quite an emotional ride, and I appreciated it.
So thank you, DreamWorks, for the emotional ride. It was appreciated. That's all we have for today. Until next time, we are the Rotoscopers. Hello. I am recording right now. I partially started working on my review for this because I wanted to get it up, but I got distracted, and fall break makes it really difficult to do what I want to do. Just so you know, fall break, baby's sleeping, Graham is having a play date, which I normally wouldn't have done it at this time, but Pippa had a play date at her friend's house, and then I thought, okay, let's do this at the same time. Maybe the mom will go for it and she'll have the play date over there. But I left the option open. We can do it here or at your house. And she said, oh, do it at yours. And so I was like, okay, great. So anyways, they're playing and they're fine. But James, I don't want to put a show on for him because I don't want them to just sit around and watch shows during the play date. That's not the point, right? So James loves to color, but he likes to color 1 page at a time, meaning he comes in here, he directs what exactly he wants the coloring page to be. I want Thomas going in a hill or going on a hill. I want him going stuck in a tunnel. It's like very specific things, but he only wants 1 at a time. So he's coloring right now. He most likely will come back in and make his demands. And there's really nothing I can do about it. I might put on a show for him, like if this gets too much, we'll figure it out. But
sounds great.
I'm excited to do this. So I think we should just go because time is a ticking.
Let's do that.
Ticking. We are stranded on a very prosperous...
Welcome to Swiss Family Robinson Island.
And we're reporting from the island with all of our magical critters, although they don't have much magic. They're just normal animals. And we are back. Okay, no. Lame. Intense giggling happening in the background.
I can't hear it very well, but I mean, it's fine. You're a mom.
Yeah. No, I mean, I just, as long as the mic doesn't pick it up, it's fine. I'm attempting to tempt them to go outside. You know, if you're from Arizona, you know most children don't like going outside because it's hot. But I don't know, about a half hour ago, it was 82 degrees, which, whew, nice, chilly, if you ask me. I mean, it's been 115 the past few weeks in summer. So, I mean, okay, it's 94 now, so we'll see how long they last outside. But, okay, shut the door. Graham's going to get them. Okay, hold on.
I can't do it.
Okay, I can do it for you. Okay, you guys, put him in some bowls. If he doesn't want him, then he doesn't have to, guys. Okay, here's James. Go eat them outside, okay? Okay, I'm almost done, guys, and then we can do some stuff, okay? You really have no idea how special and sacred your time is. Just to not be interrupted until you have kids. And it's constant. It's constant. Even though you give explicit instructions.
Well, it's like
do not come in here.
It's a movie when she's like, you're going to slow me down. And she's like, okay.
Right. Woo, we did it. We did it. We did it. So, anyways. Done. Okay.
Cool.
Awesome. I gotta go see if my house is torn down. Pink fuchsia fire happening. Oh no! You've been listening to the Animation Addicts podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to subscribe and be sure to leave us a 5-star review. We're available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and wherever you listen to podcasts. And if you want to help spread the word, be sure to share the podcast with your friends on social media. Just don't forget to tag us at Rotoscopers on Instagram and use the hashtag AnimationAddicts. For all the links and full show notes for this episode, go to rotoscopers.com/podcast. Now, if you still can't get enough for your animation fix, be sure to subscribe to us on YouTube and visit rotoscopers.com for more animation news, reviews, and interviews. Thanks for listening.